Welcome to Real Talk with Reginald D. On today's episode, I have Robin Black. Robin is the host of It's All About Healing podcast, and author and founder of Soul Healer 1717 LLC. Welcome to the show, Robin.
Hey, Reginald, how are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come hang out with me for a minute.
No problem at all.
So tell us a little bit about Robin Black.
A little bit, a little bit about me. Well, yeah, I am the host of It's All About Healing podcast, a spiritual poet, a spoken word artist, and like you said, an author as well.
Awesome. Because it's one thing when you're walking in your purpose, it's a whole different feeling. You get a whole different perspective of life when you're doing it that way.
Absolutely.
So how did you discover your purpose?
Honestly, it started with a lot of heartache and pain. I when I had my house, I had so much going on with it. Like the house just started falling apart. I needed a new roof. Then the gutter part of the house broke off, broke my deck in half. I mean, it was just like one incident after another that just kept happening. Then I finally sold my house, and then I had a relationship that completely broke my heart to the point where I was just begging God I didn't want to die from a broken heart. And I lost a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine. And it was just a year of tragedy after tragedy after tragedy. And then we had a house fire. So then we were misplaced for a while after that. And it's like God was just speaking to me, telling me to just start telling my story. Just start talking. Just get on there, start talking. I have no idea where this is going to go. Where is this going to end up? I had no idea. But what led me to writing a book was Jeremiah 30 verse 2, where it says, everything that I've spoken to you, put it in a book. So I made that book of poetry because of that, because of this whole long journey of turmoil. But it's like, I understand through suffering, we die to self, right? And then it's like he empties us, but he fills us up with him. So it's like, in order to experience plenty, you have to experience emptiness in order to get to where I am now.
I like that. Now, dealing with adversity, sometimes people take it lightly when someone's dealing with adversity. You mentioned something to me a minute ago, and you said you didn't want to die of a broken heart. People don't think of that. When people's hearts are broke, it could be detrimental to someone. And seeing people that didn't overcome things like that. So when you're dealing with adversity things, and one thing about you, things happen to you over and over, back to back, and you was like in a place where, what is happening to me?
Yeah.
Why is this happening to me? And things like that. I've been there myself. I was like, why is everything going wrong? Why is everything so messed up? What did I do? But all in all, God has a message behind everything. People just don't understand. So how did you overcome all these experiences that you had?
I had to overcome it through just actually speaking, not being afraid to speak what I'm going through. A lot of times when we go through hard times, we tend to we isolate, right? We try to isolate ourselves from others. But I wanted to speak about it. I wanted to talk about it, and it became therapeutic to me. But I remember having a doctor tell me, she was just like, even though you feel that speaking is healing, she said, you're really gifting yourself still. You're still not going within and focusing on yourself. And it took a while for that to register. And I was like, she's absolutely right. I see what she's saying now. And it made me kind of understand the reason why God isolates us as well, is because that's our time to kind of rediscover ourselves and build that relationship, that intimate relationship with him. And that's kind of where it took me about 2.5 years. It took a long, painful time, but it definitely got me to where I am today.
Robin, so did you ever think that, like, man, I'm not going to never overcome this?
Yes. Oh yeah. Like almost every day for 2 years. You always, because a lot of us, we tend to feel like this is the end all be all. This is just going to be my life. I don't know how I'm going to make it through this. I'm going to be alone forever. I may as well. It's just kind of like that. We end up falling into self-pity, feeling sorry for ourselves. But it's like, instead of focusing on why is this happening to me? I don't understand this. Focus inward and trying to figure out this is definitely happening for a reason, because everything that happens, it's happening strategically, right? Everything that we do, all of the paths that we take, it's all a part of God's masterpiece on what he's weaving together and how he's putting it together. And it's all about getting the mind and the heart on the same page, because once the mind and heart are in alignment, you're in alignment with God. You're in alignment with what he wants you to do, where he needs you to go.
Absolutely. Because I always tell people, you can either lay down or you can get up.
Right.
Hey, I like laying down, but I make more progress when I get up, though.
Right. Exactly.
More
Exactly.
done when I get up. So
Yeah.
what drives you to keep doing what you're doing, Rob?
I would say the world around us, humanity, like anything that happens, it's I can feel God using me as a vessel. Like, with all the volcanic eruptions, like the way he gives me the words to say with my spoken word poetry. And it's just the way it flows, the way it just comes to me, it just flows. It's like, I know that this is my purpose. I know that this is my path. This is what I'm supposed to do, because everything starts flowing in. When you're operating in your purpose, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You don't have to try for anything. There's no stress. There's no anxiety. There's no worry and the feel of urgency. It just comes to you. Everything just starts coming out of nowhere. And that's how you know I'm now operating in my purpose.
You're exactly right. Someone asked me the other day, said, man, how did you keep coming up with this stuff when you're doing your podcast or when you're motivational speaking, when you're doing this stuff? And it's like what you said, it just comes from where,
Yeah.
I can hear one word in a song and I can do a whole
Yeah.
motivational speech about it, one word that just stuck
Yeah.
out. I wasn't even listening to the song actually, or like you just hear a word or whatever. So it just comes naturally. And that's when you're operating in your gift. When it comes in all different forms and shapes and things like that, the God got his hands on it, because it's not us. Trust me.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's not me. I'll screw it up. If I was doing it
Yeah.
my way, if I was doing it my way, it'd be different. So let's talk about It's All About Healing podcast. You started this podcast in 2022?
Yes.
Okay. And how's that been going?
It's actually been going really well. I got my first, someone asked me to speak at a women's bereaved event in May. And it's just like, this is my first one that I've been asked to speak at. So I'm pretty excited about that. But there's just all kinds of people coming from all over the world asking me to join in on a conference or an event or any type of keynote speaker. And that's just all in the works now. That's why I said it's just the way it just comes to you. People will find you. It's like that undiscovered gem, right? That undiscovered gem, you're finally going to be sought after, even though it's hard to find, but you finally are there.
That's awesome. I bet you are excited.
Yeah, very.
You're going to nail it too.
I hope so. Thank you.
Let's talk about your book.
Mhm.
What made you write this book?
When I read Jeremiah 30, verse 2, where it said, anything or everything that I have spoken to you, put it in a book. Because I believe that It's All About Healing podcast, it was meant for me to create this podcast because it brings people together. It brings all these connections together because it's bringing stories together. All these testimonies are coming together. And that's when I wrote that book, because in the book, it's called Silent Night, Deliver Us from Pain, because we often internalize our pain. We keep it silent. We don't tell anyone what we're feeling. We just decide to internalize it. But it's deliver us from pain because it talks about the communication with God and how he delivers us from that silent pain, because he lives within us. And that's what made me write the book as well.
I tell you what, when I look back over my life, if it wasn't for God and the things that I allowed him to do with me during circumstances that I went through, I probably don't know where I'll be right now.
Right.
It's just one thing. But the thing about it, Robin, and what I love about you is that you speak about, a lot of people don't want to deal with what's going on the inside of them. They don't want to deal with pain. They kind of like try to shut it out by doing this or doing that. But at the end of the day, you can't heal if you don't deal with it.
Right. That's exactly it. A lot of times we look for a microwavable approach. We look for comfort instead of healing, right? A lot of people may go to sex, a lot of people may go to drugs or alcohol, this and that. They look for temporary comfort to help just kind of mask it because healing takes too long, right? It's painful and it's far from linear, but that's just our natural human instinct is to take that microwavable approach and just say, hey, I want this, I want it now, and just get it done. But you actually have to take the time to get it done. And when they say history keeps repeating itself, it's not supposed to. So when you keep constantly going through everything over and over and over again, it's because it's God that's talking to you. He's making you uncomfortable because he wants you to grow. You have to keep dealing with all these trials. Maybe you were blessed with the warrior spirit. You got to just keep on going and going and going and going until you realize who you are. And it's never going to stop until you realize who you are. And that's what I had to go through was I got to figure out, why do I keep going through all of this? And it's like, okay, I have that warrior spirit. I'm not a quitter. I'm going to keep going because you're always going to come up against that devil when he's trying to sabotage you. He's trying to hurt you. He wants you depressed. He wants you to feel this way. He wants you to go to all these temporary fixes. But you have to realize that I can't magnify that negativity. I can't magnify this. I need to magnify the Almighty because I know that he's going to help me and he's already won. So what can I be afraid of losing if he's already won? And that's the way that I look at it.
Absolutely. And I always say that God gives his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers.
Yes.
So, and like I said, a lot of people don't understand. And I think it's a relationship thing they have with God. Some people I talk to, they feel like the old school mentality. They say, hey, you can't question God. You don't supposed to question God. Like grandma say, I'm like, man, I'm going to ask questions.
Yeah.
I need to hear from him,
Right.
I'm going through it, but I need to hear something while I'm going through it. I can't just be out there feel like I'm on an island by myself. But it's all
Exactly.
done. So I just want, people to know that it's okay to question him and talk to him. And it's a relationship. It's a relationship. And once you establish that relationship, it's just like being in a regular relationship with somebody. Once you're in a relationship with somebody, you learn more. You get to understand that person more. What makes this person click, what makes this person mad at me, or what the case may be. And I always tell people a lot of times, man, when you hang out with God and you get to learn God and you build this relationship with God and say, you don't know what makes him click. You know what's going to make him proud and stuff like that. And he's going to give you the power to do everything you got to do. But I think relationship with him, knowing his voice, understanding, I think that's the biggest key that people could take away in their lives when they're going through whatever situation they're going through.
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot. I even wrote a poem called Focus on Understanding versus Being Understood, because a lot of times when we speak and we say, oh, well, you won't understand anyway, it's because you're wanting them to understand you instead of understand your problem or what's going on. You're still looking outward. You're projecting that, oh, they're not going to understand me anyways. It's because you're wanting them to understand you as a person. It's like you have to understand yourself as a person, focus on understanding yourself. That way you won't feel the need to be understood. And then things just start making more sense. Once you realize, okay, now I know, like you said, to ask God, just ask him, why am I going through this? He's definitely going to give you the answer. It's going to be in your own way, how he gives it to you, but he will give you that understanding if you just keep asking.
Sometimes the answers he gives you, he gives it right back to you and tell you to look in the mirror. That's when you're going through what you're going through.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember one time I was all messed up and I couldn't figure out why my life was doing what it was doing and years ago. And basically I'm sitting here praying to God and I'm like, man, this ain't, I'm questioning now, is he real? I'm like, God, if he's real, I wouldn't be going through this, and all of a sudden, like I was sleeping when I woke up, I heard his voice. You need to look in the mirror. You keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you get.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that was the whole thing. But I looked at myself deep inside. I said, man, I'm the problem. I'm here wasting God's time, and he got other stuff he needs for me to be doing, and I'm sitting here can't figure it out myself.
Yeah.
And once I figured it out and know that I was in self and myself was in the way of everything, once I realized that, and connected with God, and we went on this journey, man. It's been awesome. Yeah, it's been awesome. So
Yeah, I agree.
some people can't get out of their own way.
It's very difficult sometimes. It really is. And even sometimes I still fall in my own way. You just got to keep that constant communication going.
Absolutely. And one thing I always say, once you connect with God and you have a relationship with God, when you step away from just a little bit, you're going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, oh, let me go back. This don't feel right.
That's exactly it. And I tell some of my listeners, I'm always just like, this journey is like Pringles. Like once you pop, you can't stop. It's gonna keep bringing you back. Like, no, you're veering off. You gotta bring it on back.
I feel that way sometimes. Sometimes I just get so busy and running and all that stuff. And I'll be like, I could just feel it. I said, man, I haven't been connecting with him. I haven't been talking with him. I haven't been meditating like I should and things like that. And I feel like I'm like out here by myself. I was like, man, I don't feel right. I got to do something. I got to break it down, get some time. Get back on track, man. Get back on track.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would you say to someone that's losing their faith in God, cause for what they're going through?
Oh, that's a good question. There's so many people who lose their faith because of what's happening. And it's like I understand where they're coming from, because when so many things happen, you think there can't be a God. Otherwise, this wouldn't be happening. He wouldn't be taking all these people from me. It's just the best thing I can say, or what I would suggest is taking a different angle, looking at it from a different angle, because everything that happens is by his design. And he's our beginning and our end, right? He's the Alpha and the Omega. He knows how strong we are. It's like at the end of the day, he chose all of us. There's his chosen, but he still chose all of us when he sacrificed his son for us. And even if for the non-believers, even if you don't believe, you know something about his name. And that's how strong his foundation is. Because all his carpentry wasn't just about building things with his hands. It was about laying that foundation. And that foundation that is so strong, it's for those people who are losing faith. It's for those people who don't believe. And it's like, it's people like us that are like the earth angels, right? We're like the lighthouses. We're that beacon of light when some just cannot see. When you're in those rough waters, you have to look out for different podcasts, different books, different paintings even, right? Because no matter what creative ability that he gave some of us, it's our paintings that you're seeing, our words that you're reading, and our words that you're hearing, but it's God who's speaking. So certain things that resonate with others, it's best for them to realize that's God who's speaking to you. Even though it's me who's speaking, it's God who's speaking through me. And sometimes when people lose that faith, I also recommend that they record themselves. Whenever something is wrong, sit back and, get on your phone and just record how you're feeling. Then take a couple of days or even a week and then go back to it. And when you go back and you listen to it, it's almost like a self-healing, because you start trying to give yourself advice, right? But it's really God, because it's like our intuition starts kicking in. And now we're starting to learn how to communicate with God, because now when we go back to that recording, it's like, oh man, don't feel like that. I shouldn't have felt like that. No, you start uplifting yourself. But it's God who lives in us that's helping us uplift ourselves. It's giving us the words to say to ourselves when we go back to this recording, because we say, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel sorry for myself, and I don't deserve this. And that's the easiest way for me to say. That would be the easiest way to just kind of get out of that way of thinking these things wouldn't be happening to me if there were God, because it is happening to me for a reason.
So let's talk about this, because some people suffer from something that I think is real detrimental, and that's forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
Carry that burden with them because they can't forgive somebody what someone did to them. How important is forgiveness to you? And then how did you get the strength to forgive?
Forgiveness is extremely important, because you're forgiving for yourself. You're not forgiving for them. Because when you don't forgive, they have that power over you because you keep holding it. You hold it. It's always in your subconscious. You're always thinking about it. If you see that person or you hear their name, it bothers you. It's going to constantly trigger. But when you release that and you forgive someone and you fully forgive them with your heart, it's something different that comes over you, because the person who broke my heart, I had to forgive, because I'm like, if it weren't for this, I wouldn't be here now. I wouldn't be in this state of mind where I am now. And he played a part. He played a part in my story, right? Because we're all living our lives together. Even this podcast right now, it's like, hey, I can't write a bio without including you in my story. It's like, no matter what happens, it becomes a part of that story. And we share our stories with others. So even though this person did terrible, terrible things to me, that was his assignment. Everyone has assignment, whether they're on an assignment from God or they're on an assignment from the devil. They still have an assignment that's in your life that is strategically planned. It's divinely placed, because even evil still needs that light. There's something about this person who has the darkness that they need my light. They need a piece of my light. In their darkness, I need a piece of their darkness in order to find my light. And that's where I'm able to understand forgiveness, because without forgiveness, I'll never be able to move forward. I'll always be staying in a dormant state because I'm not going anywhere, because I refuse to forgive this person. But when I let it go, now it's like I detach that string that kept pulling me back. Now I cut that off, and now I can keep moving forward.
That was deep. I never looked at it that way. That somebody that did something wrong to you, that was their assignment.
Yeah.
I never even looked at it that way. Man, I really like that, because I'll be honest with you, it is a tough thing to walk around with unforgiveness in you. It actually spills over into relationships. Spouses treat their spouses a certain way because of what somebody did to them in the past, and they can't let it go, or they treat the kids a certain way because of what happened to them in their past and things like that. Until you learn how to forgive, then basically all you're going to do is keep damaging people. Because one thing I know, the damaged people will damage people. I had a same incident one time. I fought with unforgiveness for a long time. It was with my father. My father wasn't in my life, and I couldn't understand how can somebody be that way towards the child. And I look back over now my life, it was meant for my grandfather to mentor me throughout my whole life. So that's why I am where I am today, because of my grandfather. As I got older, I saw that, and I was like, huh. And I heard a pastor preach one time on Father's Day at church, and he said to the men of the church, he said, don't be mad. You need to forgive your father. Don't be mad at him. He said, because person that's in your life right now that's mentoring you, that's your father figure, is supposed to be there. God may not have allowed your father to be in your life because he would have did more damage to you than good.
Exactly.
So I had to look at it that way. And I think as I got older, crazy part about it, him and my mom reunited when I was like 30 years old. And they got married. I'm 52 years old now.
Yeah.
Got married, and I was still like, hold on to that mess, man. I was like, God, man, because at that point, my life is going on. I'm doing well. And he got his chest stuck out like, hey, that's my son. I'm proud of my son. I'm like, man, you ain't do nothing to get me here. And I never felt that way. But at the end of the day, I had to say, hey, he got the right to be proud at the end of the day. I was just like, yeah, he did nothing. My granddaddy helped me be the man I am today. But right now, he's an amazing guy now, man. Best relationship. I was on the phone with him last night. But like I said, I had to get to that point in my life where I had to forgive him, whatever the case may be. And I know when I look back over his life, he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't ready to be no father. So it was better off for both of us at that time, not to be in each other's life. So like I said, God, he works the plan, man. He comes with the plan. He works the plan. At the end of the day, we just got to trust him.
Exactly. And also, forgiving allows us not to suffer, because we're really the reasons why we suffer, right? There's going to be suffering and sacrifice. But because when you don't forgive, when you're holding on to someone that you haven't forgiven, it's like you create a superstition almost, because you start believing in things that you don't understand. It's like Stevie Wonder's song. It even says, when you believe in things that you don't understand, you suffer. It's like if I have all these old beliefs and I hold on to this, I'm going to believe that everyone's going to be like this. I don't know why he's doing this, but I don't know. I don't have time for it. It's like you suffer internally because that pain of what he did or what this person did, it sticks with you. And you are the one who's suffering from that pain. Why that person's just going on with their life. They're not doing anything. But when you forgive, you let go of that.
You said a big thing about understanding. If you don't understand it, you're going to be messed up, man.
Right.
One of the biggest things, people tell me a lot of times I'm wrong with how I say things, but that's just the way God gifted me with it. So I was talking to somebody the other day and it was like, man, he didn't understand church. He didn't understand the concept. He didn't understand God, actually, because he grew up in a church where you don't supposed to have wealth. You don't supposed to be prosperous and stuff like that.
Right.
Grew up in a church with that old religion, suffering and all that kind of stuff, and singing those songs. I'm climbing up on the rough side of the mountain.
Yeah.
Why are you climbing? God said, speak to the mountain. Why are you climbing? You're doing this to yourself. And I always say, and I was telling him, I said, hey, man, I said, the misunderstanding that people have with God, I said, y'all think that God just going to go out here and do everything. I said, and you got to understand what he wants for you is what's best. He wants you to prosper. He wants you to have wealth. He wants you to be able to take care of your families and have the good part of life. I mean, that's why he came. If you can't see bondage and keep thinking you don't supposed to have because of religion is telling you that. At the end of the day, and I spoke at a church one time and I told them, I said, y'all get up and y'all shout all over this church when the pastor up there preaching, running all over the church. I said, then you walk right back out that door and you lose.
Mm-hmm.
That's not God's plan. Why did you come down here for this 30 minutes to do all of this and then go back out there? Y'all wasting everybody's time, So it's bigger than just going to worship. It's bigger than just praying. It's action behind it. And I think a lot of people, once they put action behind it, such as yourself, that's when you start walking in your calling. That's when your purpose manifests itself. That's when your gift shows its power, when you start understanding that part about God. So last 2 minutes, Robin, what would you say to someone who's going through adversity and pain in their life and feel like they can't overcome?
Definitely try to align your mind and your heart, get them on the same page, because often you're not on the same page. Often you're leading with your mind or you're leading with your heart, which is where all your emotions are. Sometimes you got to take the emotions out of it for a moment and just be silent. Because when we get to that point where silence is loud, right, and we feel that urgency, the anxiety, that's the enemy trying to confuse you. But God is not the author of confusion. If you get in that silence where it's peaceful, that's when you're allowing yourself, you got to get rid of all the distractions, whether they're people, place, whatever the case may be, whatever is distracting you, get to that point where you isolate and you get quiet and you meditate, allow God to speak to you, whether he's going to speak to you audibly, speak to you through something, someone, birds, the ocean, whatever, however he's going to do it, he's going to make it clear to you how he's speaking to you, and you will find that answer. Outstanding.
There you have it, Robin Black. So, Robin, how can people follow you on social media?
On social media, it's on my Instagram. It's all about healing podcast. My YouTube, it is Robin Black Spiritual Poet, and also on my Facebook, it's Robin Black Spiritual Poet.
Rob, I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to chat with me for a minute. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed my time as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Reginald D. If you enjoyed the show, please share with anyone you feel that needs to take this journey with us on being a better you. See you next time.